Hello, this is Phil Turner of Timeform. Grand National weights were released yesterday, so we'll just have a quick early look, see which ones are coming out best at the weights with us, with a look to the big race itself on April the 6th. Now, plenty is likely to happen between here and then. A lot of these horses will have been keeping the powder dry over the winter to sort of protect their handicap marks, some of them by running over hurdles, some of them by not running at all. So I think quite a few will come and reveal themselves in the sort of 2 months up until the big race itself. And by the time we get there, these ratings towards the top might have a very different look to them. But as things stand at the minute, Abolitionist is top rated on the Timeform adjusted ratings. He's a horse with Dr. Richard Newland, who knows a thing or two about training winners of the Grand National. He won the race in 2014 with Pinot Ray with a very similar type of horse to this, a horse they bought from Ireland, who had sort of plenty of miles on the clock. But this horse is well handicapped on his Irish form from a couple of years ago. He won the Leinster National and then finished third in the Irish National. And they bought him last year with a view to running in last year's Grand National. Something had an injury, had to sit out the remainder of that campaign. But he came back and won over hurdles at Aintree in the autumn and looked every bit as good as ever. They've protected his mark since then. And he's the most interesting of the runners as things stand at the minute. You can get around 33 to 1, and I think that's a good price. There is one caveat to that. As things stand at the moment, he's not actually qualified to run in the race because he's got to run in a chase first to qualify this season. He's entered up at the weekend at Ascot, so hopefully everything will go smoothly there. And as things stand at the weights, I think he's the best handicapped of those who are sort of fit and healthy, and I'd hope for the best for him. But clearly there were 109 other horses entered, so let's just quickly look at some of those others. I should just flag up actually Noble Endeavour of Gordon Elliott. Gordon Elliott's got 22 entered, and he says he's going to run probably at least 10 or 12 of those. He's another rather similar to Abolitionist, who is very well handicapped in his horse form from a couple of seasons ago, and he actually has got experience of these fences. He ran in the Beecher Chase, finished 9th when shaping if he needed the run, but at the end of the day, he did still finish 9th. He will have to step up on that performance. But if you think he is going to sort of build on it, he's definitely well handicapped in his old form. So mention him. Gordon Elliott, of course, he trains last year's winner Tiger Roll. We've got to mention him, and he's right up there in the betting. And he actually shaped very well in a cross-country chase at Cheltenham. So things have gone very much to plan with him. All I would say is that the price more than reflects that, and he has to go and try and. It's a hard race to win twice. We know Redrum's the last one to do it, and he's got to defy a mark £9 higher. So I understand why he's up towards the top of the betting, but from a handicapping viewpoint, he's got a bit more to do this time around. Similar comments apply to Pleasant Company, who came so close to winning it last year for Willie Mullins. And like his Irish counterpart, Gordon Elliott, Willie Mullins is likely to be mob-handed, and I think you probably could find more interesting runners from his team. Up for Review, I think, is an interesting horse. He finished third in the Thyestes Chase at Gowran Park last time, when he was probably not given as good a ride as the first two. He's definitely sort of unexposed, granted a real thorough test, and of the Willie Mullins team, I think he'd be the one I'd sort of be siding with right now. Another Gordon Elliott horse I should mention, I've just mentioned the Thyestes Chase. Alpha des Obo finished a place in front of Up for Review that day, finished second. Now, he was a heavy faller at the chair in last year's Grand National. That's hardly ideal when you're looking for a winner this time around. But I seem to remember that Silver Birch went at the chair in a race before he actually won it, and he actually had been sort of taken to the course reasonably well. He was racing with plenty of zest that day, and the significant thing is, since then he has switched to the Elliott yard, and he's looked better than effort. That was a mighty effort in the Thyestes under top weight, and he looks overpriced at around 40s. Obviously, both trainer and owners, they've got plenty of other darts to throw in the race, but 40 to 1 looks overpriced. He's one I'd mention. Who else should we mention? We should mention Elegant Escape, who won the Welsh National, and rather like Up for Review, he's definitely unexposed, granted a marathon test. Worthy to run in the National, he would tick plenty of boxes, and I wouldn't really be putting anyone off siding with him. But as things stand at the moment, the Gold Cup, I think, is the main target for him, so we'll wait and see how he performs there and then take a view nearer the time. A stablemate of his is Ultra Gold. He's an Aintree specialist, and he'll definitely be running in the race. He's won the last two Tophams, and he's also been placed in a Grand Sefton and a Beecher over the fences. the Beecher Chase is quite key in the fact it showed a bit more stamina than we thought he'd sort of shown previously. And he ran okay over sort of 3 miles 6 at Warwick last time. Chances are he might find 1 or 2 too good on the long run in, but I think he'll give you a real good run for your money for a long way, and I think you can get him at 40s, and as an each way stake at this time, he'd be the one I'd be siding with instead of Elegant Escape at the moment. Are there any others we should mention at this time? Miss Parfois of Anti-Hunnables. She sort of disappointed slightly Newbury on her reappearance, but she comes with that sort of line of strong novice staying form from last season, which has been franked elsewhere this winter. And if you can forgive her that run, she should certainly stay. And although Mares has not been a mare winner since 1951, she's probably got better attributes than many others, so she'd be one to consider. Any others? Black Lion, he's gone well over the fences before. He was 4th 2 years ago. He was unlucky last year, brought down at the first. He's won the Beecher Chase. He's probably overpriced at the minute at 40s, but you do have to forgive sort of 2 slightly under par performances this winter. But if you're looking for previous course form, he's certainly not handicapped out of things. One for Arthur, of course, did win the race 2 years ago. We should mention him. He's unseated on both of his starts this year, which is very unusual for a Grand National winner. It should be said in his last run at Haydock, he showed enough to suggest a lot of his ability is still intact, but clearly you'd like to have seen a sort of more settled routine for him. So perhaps watch him until he gets his next run under his belt. Walk in the Mill won the Beecher Chase and took to the course pretty well, and looks a pretty sound jumper. I could see him running well. The only thing I would say about that race, he actually did come from quite a long way back on rain softened ground, and he might find that harder to do in the Grand National itself, particularly if the ground was to turn up sort of good to soft. Were it to turn up to a mud bath, one horse we should flag up is Folsom Blue, yet another from the Elliott yard. If it turned into really testing conditions, he'd be one to consider because he stays all day, and whilst I could see him getting too far back under normal conditions, if we're at a mud bath, he'll be one of the ones staying on at the death. So I'm mentioning everything in the race there, but if I was to narrow it down to 3 as things stand at the minute, it would be definitely Abolitionist. Fingers crossed things go well this weekend. I think Ultra Gold will give you a really solid run an each way price. And I think, as I say, Elliott and Mullins could have a very strong hand again. Of their batch at the minute, I probably would side with Alfred Obo just because he's a big price at 40s.